Hello again. Welcome back to the Moon Buff Reactions channel. Today we're doing another fresh, unusual suspect reaction, and it's a tie-in with the Mad Max franchise, given Furiosa just came out, which I saw and really fucking enjoyed. I saw it with my grandparents. Yeah, I know, weird choice, but they liked it, and if you want to know what I thought of it, then click the link below in the comments and you'll see our Fresh Thoughts review. But anyway, here we're going to be looking at the Unusual Suspects video on the Mad Max video games, which I'm not surprised those exist. As I've said on a few other occasions, I am not really much of a gamer. I've never played these games and I'm pretty sure I've never heard of them, but I'm interested to see what he has to say, because, again, not much of a gamer, but I always find what Ross, the Unusual Suspect, has to say on these type of things interesting. Same with James Rolfe. And just to be clear, I fucking love the Mad Max franchise. Fury Road, pretty good. Furiosa, pretty surprising. I really dug it. And obviously, the original trilogy with Mel Gibson is fucking iconic. And I know it's before my time, but I grew up watching Beyond Thunderdome. It was on this videotape my great-grandfather made off of HBO as a gift for my mom and my aunt. I know I'm rambling, but the series definitely brings nostalgia for me, even though I'm of a younger generation. And without further yapping, let's get into this.
Citizens of the Citadel, I welcome you to the relentless world of Mad Max!
Fuck yeah!
From the visionary mind of the man who brought us big, two, and happy feet.
Yeah!
Mad Max, first raw.
And the Witches of Eastwick.
1979, set in a bleak future where society has gone to rack and ruin. These films are nothing short of a cultural touchstone. They're violent, insane, exciting, and just a ton of fun to watch.
And got great style.
Mad Max would be a ton of fun to play. So I thought, why not take a look at all the different multitude of Mad Max games out there? I mean, you've got elements here that wouldn't be out of place in many well-established gaming franchises.
Totally.
Announced Grand Theft Auto, Fallout, Guitar Hero. So I did some digging, and what initially surprised me is despite this franchise now being over 40 years old, it's only ever had 5 official video game adaptations.
Well,
and 3 of those
what can you
were
do?
actually released. But I do want to talk about the 2 that got cancelled as well, because they got canned for the dumbest of reasons.
I'm intrigued.
But first, let's talk about Mad Max's initial foray into the 8-bit world with the 1990 game simply titled Mad Max, which is an NES title, and it serves as an adaptation of the second film, Road Warrior. But it has elements of the third film thrown in there as well. In the game, you play from a top-down perspective, and you drive around as Max in his iconic V8 Interceptor, in a free-roam environment, collecting resources in order to survive the wasteland. Huh. Am I the only one who thinks that's quite advanced for an NES game? Remember, this is way before the days of GTA and most survival games. So you might be thinking, hey, so this game must be pretty damn good then, right? God, no. I mean, bend me over backwards and fuck me with a rusty exhaust pipe. This game is appalling.
Launch your phone.
Explain.
To start, you begin the game in the car, and you've got no idea where to go. While you're busy trying to dodge oil spills, fortifications chucking dynamite at you, and a shit ton of cars trying to ram you off the road, you drive around, and around, and around. Where do I go? What do I do?
I get it.
Do I need to destroy all these buildings? Do I destroy the cars? Do I rev my engine to the tune of We Don't Need Another Hero and then Tina Turner will show up to rescue me? I've been driving around and around and everything looks the bloody same.
Fucking Tina.
I don't know what to do.
Oh,
yeah, now I know.
that's fucking,
Now you know the
that's
game.
a low blow.
So as it turns out, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. There's these easy to miss shipping containers which are scattered about the map. That's where you're supposed to go. I mean, an arrow or something would have been nice, guys. I thought these were just set decoration. Ugh. Okay, so you go into these, and it's here you gather resources like food, gas, and ammo. Oh, Max walks around like he's trying to unwed himself.
Your pants are too tight!
So I'm walking around shooting a never-ending onslaught of respawning bad guys, and okay, what's this? Could be a cellar full of items, some food and water perhaps. Let's go check it out, see what's what.
That's like a big middle finger.
Honest. Low.
Okay, so once you've reset the game and gathered the fucking resources all over again, you then take them back to a shop and exchange food and water for a pass to open an arena.
But good luck finding said arena.
I honestly cannot fathom how people were able to play this pre-internet. I tried playing it without a guide.
Oh Lord, how I did try.
But I just kept going around and around in circles and constantly getting, God damn it!
Fucking game's rigged.
So as it turns
Makes
out,
you wanna-
there's a very specific path you're supposed to take, and you'll only just make it there with a full tank. If you want to do this without a guide, you're going to need to draw a map and either have the patience of a saint or be a kid in 1990 with literally nothing else better to do.
So lazy.
Mad Max NES passwords, thank you game facts.
Work smarter, not harder.
So, if you do get to the arena,
Good clips.
and trust me, any sane person would have switched the game off by this point, you get to compete in a destruction derby type event.
But get those twisted metal burnout fantasies out of your brain.
Because instead of sweet vehicular carnage, you just drive around and kind of just hope that all the competitors drive into these traps scattered about by themselves.
Yeah.
I don't remember that from the movies.
Car combat level is to not crash into anyone. Who was this game made for? Rod and Todd Flanders?
My guess
So
is
then
the
you'll
mentally
read an exit
retarded.
game doesn't even tell you about, and then it's back to the same old shit you were doing in the first place. And no, guys, changing the fucking hue does not constitute a new level. You're not Crash 4.
And yeah, sorry to say, but that's this whole game.
You just do the same shit several times over, then you get a mediocre boss fight against Humongous, of which you can't even beat if you don't pick up enough ammo for your crossbow.
Seriously, a lot of people...
I remember why I don't like video
And when
games
you
much.
beat him, you get quite possibly the worst end screen ever seen in a video game. Because why make the effort? It's not as if anyone was going to make it this far.
Look, I will give Mad Max for NES credit for its ideas, but... Actually, no, I'm not even going to do that.
This game is,
Yeah, it don't get
one of
nothing.
the developer's previous games called Road Raider. This game is awful. Avoid it like the plague.
I am gravely disappointed. Now, Mad Max for NES
Lord
was
Humongous.
by a Canadian studio called Grey Matter, which I think automatically makes this the worst thing Canada has ever done.
But it was published by Mindscape. You might know these guys for the Lego Island game. Now, Mindscape took over developer duties for the game's sequel. 3 years later, we got Outlander for the Sega Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo Charmers.
And strictly speaking, this is not a Mad Max game.
But I bring it up because it started out as such. You see, before Mindscape could even get the game done, they actually lost the rights to the Mad Max franchise. No doubt because the last Mad Max game they worked on sucked donkey dick. So they scrambled and were still able to release the game just with all the Mad Max references removed. So is this one any good? Did Mindscape learn their lesson?
So, hard knuckle.
No.
I mean, it's slightly better, but I didn't enjoy this at all. I mean, granted, Outlander was quite ambitious for its time. It mixes vehicle segments a la Outrun and side-scrolling segments too. So that blending of genres is kind of novel, but the driving segments suck, and I found that the best way to demonstrate this was to lie to you. I am very sorry, but the footage you've been looking at all this time has been sped up. This is actually how the game runs.
That the Beverly Hills Cop theme?
You know, guys, when you measure frame rate, you usually end up with a number with 2 digits.
Yeah, this is a lot for the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive to handle, and neither of them can cope. You'll notice actually that the two versions of the game do differ, in that the Super Nintendo version is third person, and the Mega Drive is first person. And the Mega Drive version does fare slightly better. For whatever reason, I just kept dying in the Super Nintendo one. I couldn't even make it to the side-scrolling segments there. But on the other hand, the Super Nintendo has the better soundtrack. I mean, here's the music on Nintendo.
I like that.
Not bad. Not bad at all. But they sure as hell fucked up the Mega Drive version.
Very 2000 sounding.
You think we have enough bass? And even the sound design is off. To start, notice anything missing? Yeah, either Max is driving a Tesla or they forgot to add the goddamn engine sounds. You know, quite possibly the most important sounds you hear in the Mad Max universe. Oh, and for some reason, Max's machine gun sounds more like some sort of alien phase weapon.
The fuck?
I think you meant to use this sound, guys.
I mean, I do respect the ideas, I'm sure. Like how you have this window show up so you can shoot your shotgun off to the side when bikers approach. And all the explosion effects are pretty sweet. What with the tires flying off in the debris. And look here, you can actually see the motorcyclist explode in your rear view mirror.
Okay, that's cool.
Advanced at the time, but the hardware wasn't ready for this. It needed dialing back. Most racing games on the original NES ran better than this. So you drive for a bit, but when you run out of gas, you've got to pull off to the side of the road to get more. Now this is where you partake in the side-scrolling segments,
Which are even worse.
These controls are so stiff. You walk more like the T800 than you do Mad Max, and the hit
Like he's got a... Yeah, he does have a rusty rod up his ass.
I shot you right in the face. I timed that to perfection. Oh, come on! I actually found using my fists to be more effective. It's bad. And unlike the driving segment,
punching a
there's
chick?
no excuse for everything feeling so sluggish. Side-scroller shooter games were all but perfected by this point. Mega Man X came out the same year. What are you doing, Mindscape?
Now, as it turns out, Mindscape developed a lot of shit in their time.
Mostly working on tie-in movie games for the NES, like Terminator and Indiana Jones, and they kept releasing shit all
Oh, that does not look good.
2008, where they bowed out with a game about the fucking Golden Balls game show for Wii and DS.
What kind of name is
And
that?
then they finally left the video game market for good. Can't say they'll be missed.
So the games haven't been very good so far, but before I get to the Mad Max game I think most of you know about, let's talk about those cancelled Mad Max projects that never saw the light of day.
Here we go.
Yeah, before even the NES version, there was plans to make one called Mad Max Autorama, which was planned to release around the same time as Mad Max Thunderdome.
The console it was planned for? The Control Vision.
Anyone?
Yeah, I never heard of it either.
And the reason why it was so obscure is because it never existed.
You see, it was planned to be a console that used VHS tapes. And believe it or not, a few of these did exist
Intriguing.
back in the 80s. A movie would play and you would use a light gun peripheral to shoot targets overlaid on the screen. And yeah, because this is
Sounds fun, but
video
also
on VHS
impossible.
tape, you end up with zero feedback to your shots. If you shoot something, nothing happens. And that alone automatically makes these things the dumbest idea to come out of the 80s. And take into account that was the same decade that gave us the mullets.
So yeah, Mad
Hey, don't bad talk the
was
mullet.
going to be an on-the-rails shooter type game.
The developers had shot POV footage of a car driving through a desert, and occasional forks in the road would show up, and you could decide which way you wanted to go.
If any of you have heard of the Sega CD game Sewer Shark, same basic concept.
Sewer Shark was originally intended as a Control Vision game too, but when CD-ROM technology grew in popularity, the Control Vision got canned, and thus Sewer Shark jumped ship to the Sega CD, which is kind of like if the passengers of the sinking Mary Rose were picked up by the fucking Titanic. Mad Max Autorama didn't ever get
Good
a chance
analogy.
to do this. Yeah, you might think Autorama got cancelled because the Control Vision got cancelled.
But no, it got canned for the dumbest fucking reason ever.
Do tell.
Turns out the game's producer, Ken Melville, checked in with the game's would-be publisher, Hasbro. He arranged a meeting with the executive vice president, Barry Alperin, and was like,
Yo, Barry, just so we're in the clear, you know Mad Max is like a violent series, right? Like, it's not meant for kids, but we're cool though, right? Like, Hasbro is still okay to publish the game, right?
2 days later. Yep, turns out
Of course.
Hasbro's vice president thought Mad Max was a franchise meant for kids. And once he found out it wasn't,
What?
he pulled the plug. And all the
What?
Mad Max Ultrarama was thrown in the dumpster. You should have kept your trap shut, Melville.
But at least Melville had the rights to the Mad Max franchise going in.
Unlike Australian developer Melbourne House, who sunk several months of work into a Mad Max game for the PlayStation 2 without even acquiring the fucking rights yet. Yeah, their game was going to be called Mad Max Asylum, and Melbourne House's plan was to create a game so compelling, George Miller would have to give them the license. Yeah, a big reason why there's not that many Mad Max games is because after the disaster that was the NES version, Miller grew extremely wary of whoever he gave the license to.
Understandable.
God, I do not blame him. So, after several months of development, Melbourne House called a meeting with the man himself, and they pulled out all the stops. They had concept art, a trailer to show, even a fully playable demo.
And apparently this meeting went quite well. Until...
one of the designers of the game, Mark Morrison, handed George Miller a 500-page document full of ideas they had for the game. And the following course of events actually happened. Okay, George, we have this document here full of ideas we have for the game. Please, take a look. Okay, let's see here. Why Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome sucks. Yeah, I'm not making this up. Morrison, for some reason,
They actually thought that would work?
Document, and it was apparently the first thing George saw.
Fucking oops.
Holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
About several months of work don't go down the drain, and the first thing you tell him is, yeah, your last movie sucked balls. And it's weird, because I don't even think Beyond Thunderdome is that bad.
It's my favorite.
It's false. The whole Lost Boys segment was pretty weird, but damn, it's a decent movie. Now, it's said that Miller laughed this off, but when you factor in his eventual decision to not give them the rights,
Yeah, this might have been the reason why.
and so Mad Max, a franchise that was just dying for a good video game adaptation, went gameless all throughout the late 90s and all throughout the 2000s.
And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
Until when chance came, the Mad Max IP ensnared a new bearer.
Because in 2015, this little film hit cinemas.
Yet,
Right back.
after a 30-year absence, George Miller was back with Mad Max Fury Road, and it was a massive hit. Critically at least. It captivated and thrilled audiences,
Myself included, fuck me, this movie is awesome.
and it picked up 9 Academy Award nominations, winning 6 of them. And thus, the interest in a Mad Max game was back on. And up to bat came Just Cause developers Avalanche Studios, and they brought us this. Now, this game...
Even that text looks off.
...following of late. I've seen so many YouTubers make videos talking about how underrated and misunderstood this game is. Because when it came out, critics were giving the game mostly 6s and 7s. And a lot of people weren't happy with that. So that got me curious. And when I played it myself, I pretty much immediately understood where everyone was coming from. I got on the hype train for this too.
Though personally, whilst I am on this hype train, I'm sat in economy. If that metaphor makes any sense.
Yeah, I do think it's underrated, just not vastly so, as it does have one pretty glaring issue about it. But Mad Max 2015 does some things so right, it does make up for the shortcoming.
So first off, the positives, and to talk about those, we gotta talk about Mad Max's major gameplay segments.
Driving and combat. Now, the majority of your time driving will be done in this beauty, the magnum opus, which admittedly I found a little loose feeling in its controls, but I think that's by design, and once I got used to it, it's fun as hell to drive. The car comes equipped with things like a battering ram, nitrous oxide, a harpoon gun, and you use all of these in tandem to explode the living shit out of anyone who stands in your way. It's wonderfully visceral. Cars explode and catch fire in such a satisfying
Looks fun.
And igniting your nitrous and going head first into an enemy vehicle. Woo-hoo-hoo. So good.
And that description also applies to the beat 'em up sections.
Avalanche Studios have absolutely nailed the feel of this game. Beating the shit out of thugs feels so damn good. You have a light attack.
Oh, yeah.
Holding down the attack button, you can charge up for a more powerful strike, which feels great. It's just so crunchy and
Yeah. I'm honestly a little scared how much I am enjoying this.
And don't overthink it. Fuck them up.
Fuck you!
Look, if you want something to help vent out any frustrations you have I got the game for you.
Hmm.
Okay, a lot of you might be thinking, hey, this combat system sure seems familiar.
And yeah, this is Mad Max Arkham, undeniably.
And look, nothing wrong with copying it. Loads of games use this combat system.
Though I have heard mixed feelings about its implementation in games.
Some people love it, whereas others find it a bit too easy. What with the button prompts that show up that make countering an absolute doddle.
Now, I don't mind this.
Not every combat game needs to be secular levels of punishing. If you're looking for something not too taxing, but still satisfying to pull off, then you'll have fun with this. I'm not going to pretend it's the deepest combat system in the world, because it's not. And honestly, some might find it a bit too basic. Max doesn't have all the fancy gadgets like Batman or Spider-Man does for that matter. So
I'm not familiar with these games, so it means nothing to me.
Combat is great, but maybe a little more variety would have gone a long way. A few more guns to play with, maybe a few combos. You
never go wrong with guns.
More enemy types, stuff like that.
Oh, but one quick shout out to an extra little feature they added.
Where when enemies are up against a vertical surface, the combat's animations will switch up as Max beats up the bad guys with their backs up against the walls. It's fantastic, and I know Mad Max wasn't the first game to do this. Sleeping Dogs did this really well too, but props to Avalanche for including it regardless. It helps blend gameplay and environment together. Also, for a 2015 title set in a barren wasteland, Mad Max looks damn good at times. My favourite parts are when you go up these hot air balloons.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The story's also pretty good.
Now, granted, it takes a while to get going. A lot of the game's early plot is just based around, we need to build a car, go here, get that part, go there, win this race to get this thing to unlock this place.
I mean,
Of course it's a race.
It's a video game and that's part of the course.
But nothing really interesting happens until we meet Hope here, about halfway through. And now the plot gets a lot more personal. And without spoiling anything, it ends in a surprisingly unconventional manner. You believe Max is set for a certain path, a kind of redemption for the character. And then the game's like, this is Mad Max, bitch. We don't do conventional. And thus,
Yeah,
you get a pretty
that wouldn't feel right.
dark ending to the campaign. I mean, it's not the deepest of plots, but neither are the movies for that matter. So all in all, I found it pretty effective. Kudos.
Now, earlier, I talked about one glaring issue with this game, and this is going to split people.
But for me, the reason why I can't call this game an absolute must-play is down to three simple words. Ubisoft Open World.
I don't know what that means.
This style of open world game was popularized by the Assassin's Creed franchise. You have a bunch of tower-like structures spread across the map. You climb them to get a lay of the land, and then the map becomes littered with a bunch of objectives. This is what those hot air balloons are for. Now this sounds fine, but unfortunately, so many of these types of games copy and paste the same objectives to oblivion.
Fuck off! And this disproportionately affects me more than most.
Because I love 100% in games. It's very satisfying for me to find everything and do all the objectives. It's why collectathon games like Spyro are so enjoyable for me. And with the Spyro Reignited trilogy, you can 100% that game in about 30 hours, which is a really nice sweet spot for me. It gives me that satisfaction of completing everything without overdoing it. Mad Max, however,
I get it.
not nearly as bad as some open world games out there, still overdoes it. If you want to 100% this, it'll take you over 60 hours.
And for me personally, there is not nearly enough variety to keep me playing that long.
As many of the game's objectives, whilst fun, become quite repetitive.
I could not go that long.
The same looking enemy compound.
I have played some games for a long period, but my patience can go down.
Added by adding more narrative to the open world, more lore,
I mean, you get this a tiny bit through these collectibles Max collects, but it's just not enough. The Mad Max world is a fascinating place that the movies don't really explain very much. Naturally, because they can't. They're just 90-minute features with an emphasis on action set pieces.
Well, it's 2 hours now.
A video game doesn't have that restraint. Wouldn't it be cool to have side story missions where you fight alongside characters like Ghost of Tsushima did, and by helping them, they reveal more about their past lives and how they survived the apocalypse? Or what about
the mystery of Mad Max is part of the fun.
That showcase all the societies and religions that formed in the apocalypse. But unfortunately, outside of some character bios, there's none of that here. I end up doing so many side missions because I want to upgrade my car and 100% the game. But by the time I've cleared out the same looking enemy encampment for the upteenth time, I now have zero motivation to keep playing because I know that the rest of the game is going to be much of the same. So it gets to this stage where I've had enough of exploring the world. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to complete the story now. But then I realise there's still over 10 hours worth of story missions still to do.
Jesus, fuck!
Why did I spoil the game by doing so many repetitive side objectives? I just took an amazing game, and I think I must have OCD.
Lord of the Rings. Never gets old.
I must clear it. Then, after clearing dozens of them, I get bored, and now I don't enjoy the main story as much. As
Worst thing game can do is bore you.
Please comment below. Does anybody else feel the same? Because I feel completely alone on this.
I've played countless games where I have this same goddamn experience. Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Hogwarts Legacy, even Ghost of Tsushima was guilty of this. And Avalanche Studios themselves went on to make this same mistake again with their next game, Rage 2, which, like Mad Max, is an open-world post-apocalyptic driving game with a map full of bloats. I play for like 20 hours and I'm like, oh, I'm so full. And I just lose the will to carry on. I get that I could just ignore all the side objectives, but if I do, I miss out on a lot of the upgrades. It's immensely unsatisfying for my OCD brain to leave objectives incomplete.
Hello, OCD.
You have to do some side objectives, otherwise it doesn't.
Or maybe it's just a joke.
Through the story anyway.
Look, I'm still a fan of this game. I really enjoyed my time with it.
And I know a lot of gamers aren't bothered by the Ubisoft open world.
And for those people, 100% play this game.
And even for those who are bothered by it, I still think it's worth playing. And hey, the game is dirt cheap these days. Your local used game store will have it for like a $5. So I would say pick it up if you see it, because for that kind of money, this game's definitely worth another look.
Okay, that's it for today, and if you're watching this, that must mean you are a
My name.
Thank you guys especially, your support is coming in absolute clutch at the moment. And now I want to thank my top tier patrons by name, and their handles are Hayden Redmond, Ryan Massey, Matthew Tangerman, Dr. Ten, Mark Tonna, Gregorio Vasquez, Max Stahl, Goldsboro THG, Ewan Hurst, Joshua Bowden, Jacob Matthew Crawford, Christian Lishka, and Stephen Sujapudra. Thank you all so much. Until next time guys, see you around.
We'll be waiting. So, that was the Mad Max video games, and like I said, I'm not much of a gamer. I can't even remember the last time that I tried playing a video game, and it's not that I hate them entirely. Like, I can appreciate and respect the designs and the hard work that goes into them, but even as a young kid, I just never could really get into many games. I mean, I did play a bunch of shit for a while, but I soon found that, like he said, interest can die, and also I could get really frustrated to the point that I wanted to fucking wreck the TV. I never did, but yeah, I found that games just weren't exactly for me. Although I did at one point try playing some of the classic Atari games, and those have some charm to them. They have some nice aspects. But anyway, Mad Max. I'm happy to see that he loves the franchise, and also it was so cool to see him give praise to Thunderdome, which for me personally, like, it was the first one I saw because my mom wouldn't let me watch the R-rated movies first, but I genuinely like it, and it's got more personality than the other original two, And I think Furiosa has a bit of personality, but Beyond Thunderdome remains a fucking favorite of mine to this day. Mel Gibson, Tom Hardy was alright, but Mel Gibson is the true Mad Max. Tina Turner, amazing. And I didn't mind the segment with the kids in the desert. I thought Mel Gibson worked well with them, and George Miller, while he did include more kids, he didn't go soft. There were still some pretty shocking, disturbing moments, and as for the games, the NES looks like it would be unbelievably goddamn frustrating. The Outlander thing looks like there were some fun aspects, but as a whole, just way too flawed. The story about the canceled games were probably the best parts, particularly the bit where whoever pitched the game stupidly gave him a note that said, "Beyond Thunderdome sucks." I just thought, fucking blasphemy, man. And the story with Hasbro, yeah, it's not like that guy fucked up, but Hasbro, they assume Mad Max is for kids. Is this the same genius that assumed at one point RoboCop should be marketed to kids? I'm not saying it's bad, but yeah, and also, didn't Rambo have a kids Saturday morning cartoon show at one point? I mean, why would they chicken out at Mad Max? And the last game looks like it could be interesting. He talked about it being a copy of the Batman game, and well, that may bother some. As I said, I'm not familiar with these games, some of these phrases. I honestly feel like a dumb fucking cunt for not knowing some of these lingos, but it was fascinating to watch, and even though I spoke up a few times, just because that's what you do when you do a reaction, I was paying attention as hard as I could, and it's really interesting to hear him talk this passionately about something that I'm not passionate about, but it's always interesting to hear someone delve into what they feel and think, and I get what he says about eventually losing interest, getting frustrated, and either way, Furiosa's out. Maybe Ross will go see it. I know he's not particularly a fan of the cinema, but the film had a bit of a rocky start, and I don't know where it's going, but here's hoping that Furiosa picks up, because George Miller, he's pushing 80, but he still has the fucking talent, and I want to see more of what he can do. And I think a good note to sign out on is, nice work, Ross, and if you want to see a non-Mad Max project of George Miller that's really goddamn good, then I recommend checking out Twilight Zone the movie. He directs the last of the 4 anthology segments, and to this day, many people consider it the best, and there's a pretty fun tribute to the eye-popping scene in the first Mad Max, so check that out, and I will see you again hopefully soon.